What about the Lions' relationship with Calvin Johnson? You think it's important for the Lions to kind of repair that? And I'm on board with that. And here's why. And again, this relates to you. I see the people's faces when you come around and you're engaging and you talk to them, and you do the veteran you award the veteran of the game, the jersey and everything like that. I see the impact that you have, and I know it's you are the people's champion for real. It's just I think that the Lions are missing an opportunity with Calvin in kind of that same capacity. And Calvin's very accessible, dude. He's around town. You see him all the time.
I do.
This is his home, man.
We join ventures.
You're in the same circles,
yes.
Depending on what kind of circles those are. But do you think it's important?
Smoke ring circle.
I think the Lions are missing an opportunity.
Well, here's the thing, and I think we've seen this with Barry over the years, and this all comes from the top, from the organization, and it doesn't matter. What your name is, as it's the appreciation to feel it. I think we've seen Barry be around more, and we've seen that relationship has gotten better, and his interaction and being a part and everything else. So I think the most important thing is that it's organic and it's natural and it's not forced. I think that we always play, hey, Lions fans, the Sheila, right. When people booed, if you don't think Sheila heard, she heard, and how much, and even where Calvin was there. So I think what I've seen from the outside, I think they're working on it. I think that will get there sooner than later, but that's because the organization and the ownership from the top has changed. All we want as former players, whatever, is that I see you. You don't want anything other than appreciate the effort and the time. And sometimes when you don't feel that for what you've put your body, your mind, your soul, your life, your personal life, your family life, a lot of different things that have gone into it. And you think, just like everybody else, when you don't sort of feel appreciated or something, and we're talking about guys that are Hall of Famers, guys that put people in the seats that got, you know what I mean, at the highest of level, that you would think that the common sense is to make it easy to make them want to be around. You look at all the different organizations throughout sports and how they use, a lot of their retired guys and their veteran guys, the guys that are in the Hall of Fame. So I think that you're getting there. It's the same thing as I think if you march Sheila out, she'd get a big cheer, because people see it's organic and it's real. And I think we're going to get there. And I think you're right. Because when I see a Barry Sanders and I see a Calvin Johnson,
it changes the physiology in the stadium.
Engaged, right? It tells me that things are different. It tells me that we're all in it together. And that's sort of all I want. The luxury of being retired and having the stats and being around there is that now, and I love it. I absolutely love it because it's who I am, right? But the fact is that I know where I was for all the moments that you cheered me on and the highlights that we see, but I don't know where you were. So for that few moments there, when you want to tell me that we have a connection, to me, that's my way of being able to let everybody know that we are more similar than we are apart, and find that compassion. I think Calvin along those lines, and especially with the Detroit sports teams, it's that sort of appreciation. So I think they're working towards it. I think that it came from the top, but it's, to me, it's almost like that feral, if you've ever had a feral barn cat or an animal, that does its own thing, but then you can get it to come up and actually make friends with it, right? That the animal's being there because it wants to, not because anybody made it, paid it, did anything like that. So to me, to see Calvin around more, and I think they're working towards it, but yeah, because if I see him involved and cheering and getting behind everything else, man, that makes me feel even more, because of the history that I have with Calvin and all those highs and lows and whatever that we went through. Now we share it together now, right? That's the whole thing is what we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do, is to build everybody else to what's coming in a few years down at LCA.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread, Doug Fungus, and I vibe with this comment a lot. Fords finally took 50% off of their egos. And that I believe to be the truth. I 100% do believe that. I don't get that same feeling.
But is it
of
ego?
aloofness.
Like, I never thought that
Is
they
it
had
ego
ego.
or
It was
aloofness? Yeah.
It was more of I don't care. What I've seen is like 50% more of, oh, I pay attention or I care. Or actually, if somebody says, oh, you make me feel bad in the forwards and responses, I heard you say that I'm making you feel bad. Instead of, hey, you make me feel bad. And then the forwards would always hear, yeah, it's all perfect out here, sunshiny days, right? So now it's their self-awareness. Maybe not ego. Maybe the Ford family self-awareness, led by Sheila, right, is more at the forefront now.
Yeah, and it is, and that is something that certainly seems to be different. So I am for that, and I would be intrigued to see if they ran her out there. During the first half.
Run her out there early.
Yeah, you got.
Oh, you got it.
You got to take advantage.
Oh, right, first game, whatever, something.
Don't go the Byron Leftwich route.
But I also think that the fans, like me as a fan, I want to show her that appreciation because she's earned it in the same sort of way, right? So the same thing I was talking about is them showing Calvin appreciation and something like that, which has changed. Because I think a lot of times us as former players, sometimes we get a little, we get a little, what do you call it, chafed ass?
Yeah.
We get a little chafed ass. Hey, listen, I have my moments, right? But in the whole scheme of thing, at the end of the day, if it's supposed to be the culture that we expect it to be. Now, I can speak on the one at LCA because, yes, implementing back of what we had back in the 90s, right? Because the guy in charge back then is in charge now, and Steve Yzerman. Can't speak as much to it, but it's just what I feel and what I see as a fan.
Yeah, and it is. It's just something that kind of popped in my head, because I watch you operate. And
it's almost like that's like as everything we're talking about getting everything. We're talking about the North Division Championship, hosting a playoff game, right? Having Calvin in the building.
Let's line it all up, man.
This is all about this is all about roses and smelling good and everything. Put things in the positive direction.
Yeah, and I don't know about. I don't know about all this. Like Brandon Katz says, Calvin is irrelevant in Detroit. He won nothing and had no personality. I mean,
see, that's where you're wrong. That's cool, Brandon, but you don't understand. See, these are the little, when people want to say, what's the difference in building championships? It's a slight little thing like this. And I mean, I can't, unless you're a part of it or whatever, but yeah, it does mean something because he means that to you, Brandon, but not to everybody else.
Right.
So that's your opinion. So that's great.
Because to me, we're the regard that I hold him in.
Say the same thing about Barry Sanders and the same thing about Calvin Johnson, same thing about Barry Sanders.
No, I mean, Barry was 60 minutes from the Super Bowl at one time, but regardless, for me, I associate him with one of the best to ever do it, and did it as a Detroit Lion his entire career.
Right, and his entire so to you, to me,
it means a lot.
That means something.
It means more than Matt Stafford means to me.
He didn't go else places, so that to us circumvents the winning or not.
And right. Look, Brandon, if that's the way you feel, that's the way you feel.
Absolutely.
But to me, he is one of the best to ever do it. Did it for the Detroit Lions his entire career.
The fan base of the Lions, right, are in our camp more than they're in Brandon's camp.
Sure, absolutely.
Because of that. Hall of Fame gold jacket, played his whole career. Which is the same thing about Barry. Barry and Calvin, there's a lot of comparables.
No, there certainly is.